What's up guys, my name is Ace and welcome back to The Breakdown. This is the series where I analyze subscriber gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down a hardcore gameplay for once from Craigyd07. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so first up, as always, let's have a look at the class that he decided to use. So he's got a Kuda with Elo, Quick Draw, Stock, Fast Mags. Then we've got Concussion Grenade, Ghost, Fast Hands, and Gung Ho. So overall, not a terrible class, but there are a few things that I wanted to point out here and things that I would personally change. For the gun and attachments, nothing wrong with any of those, so I would leave those just as they are. There's nothing wrong with using that. Concussion Grenade, also pretty good, although with hardcore you do have to be a little bit careful with Concussion Grenade because you can stun your teammates, which definitely isn't good, but as long as you're being careful when you're using it, then it's totally fine to use that. Ghost is something that's generally not recommended for hardcore. Simple reason for this is most of the time, the enemy won't even have a mini-map, let alone a UAV up. When they do have a UAV up though, yes, you do get that advantage of having Ghost as long as you're moving around, which this person is. This is more of a rushing class. And therefore, there are maybe a few situations where this helped him out, but overall, I just feel like there are better ways that you can spend your points on a hardcore class. Fast Hands, absolutely excellent. I wouldn't leave home without it. But Gung Ho, on the other hand, I've basically just skimmed through this gameplay so far, and there wasn't a single situation that I found where Gung Ho was giving this person an advantage, or where he was even taking advantage of the sprinting while firing mechanic. You've already got Fast Hands, which allows you to come out of sprint very, very quickly and get your shots off, which is all you need to do in hardcore. And the whole sprinting while shooting aspect in hardcore, usually there's not enough time to actually sprint and shoot at your enemy at the same time. You come out of sprint, you fire a couple bullets, and then you're back on your way. And therefore, I would definitely swap Gung Ho for probably a sound perk. If you have a headset, I'm not too sure if he does or not. If you have a headset though, awareness can be great. If you don't have a headset, I'd probably pop on Dead Silence. And if you absolutely don't want to use one of those sound perks, maybe go with something like Tac Mask or something. At least these perks are likely to be helping you out in a whole lot more situations than Gung Ho did in this particular gameplay. Alright, so let's get into the gameplay itself here. For his opening route, he went in Cap C and he kind of took the long way to get to this position right here. You don't want to be taking the long way around if you're going to the really common power positions where people are going to be pre-aiming. If you immediately sprint towards that area and you know you're going to be there first, that's totally fine. But if you give the enemy plenty of time to get set up and get pre-aimed on the areas where they know somebody is going to be, you don't want to be the guy that's going to that spot. That was an easily preventable death, and he definitely shouldn't have made that particular move. Now for his second push, as he came out of spawn, I like that he pushed to the outside of the map here. I don't see very many people doing this on Combine, and it's a very good move. It's often overlooked because you get a great line of sight towards the B flag as you come around here. So if there were any enemies capping that, oftentimes those enemies are so preoccupied with what's in front of them that they don't even pay attention to that lane over there, and he could have potentially picked up some easy kills on the B flag. I also like right here that he's being patient. He's not just throwing his body on the B flag so that the enemies can easily pick him off. He's checking the common areas, the areas that overlook B, and he's creating that buffer zone. So he's pushing the enemies back and ensuring that none of the enemies can even get a line of sight on B. Now right here was a great move as well. I like that he jumped up into this particular capture spot because this is usually like the second or third place that the enemies will look when they look towards the B flag as they come around a corner. And in hardcore, that's all the time in the world that you need to be able to pick them off before they realize what you're doing and where you are. Now, as he's coming off spawn right here, there's just something that's really minor. Didn't get him killed or anything, but it's just something to always be aware of. He ran right in front of his teammate as his teammate was looking over towards where an enemy could potentially be and where he might need to be pulling the trigger and firing some shots. Now, it turned out it was totally fine, it was safe. But in a lot of situations, I see too many people getting themselves team killed unnecessarily by running right in front of their teammates' sights. All it takes is a very minor adjustment. It's not going to waste you any time to walk behind your teammates rather than directly in front of them in hardcore. The next thing I want to point out as we skip ahead a little bit here, just pay attention to his aim and how it behaves as he's aiming towards enemies. I feel like there's a bit of a sensitivity issue here, and there's also another thing that is a habit that a lot of people get into. And that is they come around a corner, they aim in a really obscure sort of position, and then they adjust their sight to try and find their target. This is usually a much slower way to snap onto your target and get quick kills than it would be to have them centered on your screen first, then aim down sight and fire your shots. I see him do this quite a bit throughout this gameplay. I mean, not every single situation, but a lot of situations he's doing this. And it's something that you can get away with in hardcore, but once you swap back to core game modes, you're going to really struggle because this is a very sloppy way to get onto your target, and therefore it's a habit you don't want to be developing. Try to center the target on your screen first, then aim down sight and fire, or if you are going to be pre-aiming a spot, always make sure you're trying to pre-aim that spot where you expect the enemies to be, rather than like somewhere off to the side and then dragging on to where your target actually could be. Skipping ahead a little bit here, you see one more situation where that sensitivity just isn't working out for him to get on target, but I really like how he approached this situation. He got the nice low wall run, and just pay attention to how he keeps that piece of cover between him and the enemy spawn towards the C flag. This is the perfect way to approach that wall run, in my opinion, in most situations. You stay nice and low so that they can't see you from a good distance away, and you have good cover and everything. And you also always make sure that piece of cover, that pillar there, is staying between you and the back of their spawn. That way you have plenty of time to jump up off the wall run, and you can potentially take them off guard because they didn't see you there, and they don't expect you to be popping up from underneath like that. Now right here, just a great example of why stock is so powerful on SMGs. He was able to outstrafe both those enemies and easily take them out. Without stock, there's a good chance he would have even lost that first gunfight. Now skipping ahead to the second round right here, at least the beginning of the second round, he captures the A flag and then he comes up to this position in the window, and I don't like how he approached this. He didn't get killed by it, but I just want to explain why I don't like this. So what he did here is he comes to the window, he first off doesn't crouch so that most of his body is actually exposed in this window. Basically, the enemy can see everything above his waist, so most of his body is exposed in this window as he comes around. Keeping in mind, he also capped the A flag first, so he's not necessarily going to be the first one to the power position, and there could easily be a guy pre-aiming him standing on that spot that he went to in the first round. The second thing I don't like about this is how he very, very slowly came around this corner in an attempt to try and challenge that person across the way. This might seem like a good idea because you're prepared, you're aimed down sight, and that's great, but he came around there far too slow, and this gives the enemy way too much time to kill him, because first the enemy will see your elbow and actually the side of your body before you can see the enemy if you come around really slowly like this, so they have all the time in the world to just shoot you in the elbow before you can even see where they are. And therefore, I wouldn't recommend doing this. One final thing to mention about this situation is he's using a Kuda, and I know in hardcore guns tend to be balanced quite well, and you can use pretty much any gun in any situation because the health is so low. But the Kuda at this range is a 2-shot kill, whereas pretty much any assault rifle and definitely any LMG are going to be a 1-shot kill at this range. And in addition to this, the Kuda has a fair amount of idle sway, so it moves around quite a bit while you're aiming down sight, and this makes it more difficult to hit your shot at that range. So the Kuda in this situation is very easily outclassed by any assault rifle or LMG, and therefore I wouldn't have challenged this situation with a Kuda. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode of The Breakdown. If you have a gameplay that you'd like to submit for a future episode of this series, all you have to do is send a link to an unlisted YouTube video that's at least 720p in quality and just raw gameplay, no music, no commentary, nothing like that. Send a link to that gameplay to the email address in the description below. Please put Breakdown or The Breakdown or something in the title so that it's easy for me to find it. And I will have a look at it, and it just might be used in a future episode. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.